with the Jaguars beating the Bills in this Week 9 matchup, just how stunning of an upset was this for the Jaguars?
Man, like you said, it was the upset of the season up to this point. And I don't know if we'll get a bigger upset throughout the rest of the year. But man, Josh Allen had himself a game. Okay. Now, I'm not talking about quarterback Josh Allen.
You got jokes. You
I'm,
got jokes.
hey, I'm just following up with the announcers of the game. They reminded us time and time again that Josh Allen sacking Josh Allen was one for the history books. Apparently, nobody else in the NFL with the same name has ever sacked another person with the same name. But it was a historic day because not only did he get a sack, he also got a pick and he recovered a fumble, all from Josh Allen. So, but all in all, man, it was a shocker. I don't know that the Bills are supposed to be the favorites or one of the favorites in the AFC. And after a performance like this is a game they're supposed to win. And great teams win games they're supposed to win. Um, they're in a stretch here where they have some easy games. They just played Miami last week. Today was supposed to be an easy one against Jacksonville, and then they're playing the Jets next week. So this was supposed to be a comfortable little stretch for them where they win comfortably, but it did not work out for them today. That Jaguars defense came to play, and Josh Allen did not look good. The quarterback, Josh Allen, did not look good. He threw for 264, no touchdowns, and two interceptions. So that's not really a stat line we're used to from Josh Allen. But they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure some things out. Luckily, like I said, they play the Jets next week. So that should be an easy one, but that's what we were saying this week.
You can't say that because Mike White, the GOAT of GOATs, is coming in to that Buffalo game and he smelled blood in the water, okay? You're going to watch. You're going to see.
So I'm curious to hear from you guys. Does this kind of stifle your confidence in the Bills as a playoff contender or as a championship contender, a Super Bowl contender?
Kevin, you go ahead.
I mean, honestly, I'm not really going to say all of that. I mean, everybody's entitled to a bad game, and I mean everybody. The Chiefs have had atrocious games this year. For whatever reason, they're still a game back in the AFC West. I mean, the Cardinals had their mishap, and they had their one loss, but they should have had a bad loss today too, but we'll get into that game a little bit later. But I'm not going to sit here and panic. I mean, everybody's due up for a really good game. I mean, Jacksonville pretty much dog shit for the last, 3 years since their AFC Championship run against the Patriots. They were due up for a really good game, so I'm not going to sit here and say that they didn't play well. And I don't necessarily know if Buffalo kind of tried to play down or didn't really they didn't really prepare for Jacksonville playing as aggressive as they did. The defense was swarming. The offense was able to at least move the ball forward to get them in the field goal range. As Kyle and AJ already stated, it was literally just field goals, 9 total points. So the offense didn't have to do much. It was a defensive, heavyweight game. Big punches were thrown, and, Jacksonville just came out on top. Buffalo just gets a big reality call to say, listen, you can't play down to these teams. At the end of the day, it is an NFL roster. Whether or not the team sucks, these athletes can have big performances. Josh Allen having the game that he had on Jacksonville's defensive side of the ball was one for the history books in and of itself because you got an interception, you got a strip sack fumble, and you obviously got the recovery. So, I mean, as a defensive player, that's the trifecta. That's the triple crown. So, him coming out of the NFL draft as pick number 7 or 8 out of Kentucky, again, a lot of people didn't really see much of that going anywhere when Jacksonville traded away a lot of their defensive prowess and stars over the last couple of years. But he came to play, and I think that shows the integrity of the Jaguars. But again, like AJ said, it's back to the drawing board. Josh Allen has a very big problem where he tries to solve a lot of his issues with his legs, and that's just not necessarily the case in a lot of these situations. You can't always run out of it. You got to learn to throw the ball away. I mean, and for God's sakes, protect the damn football. 2 interceptions and a fumble. It's just, you're not going to win games like this. I mean, heaven forbid this was against a competent offensive team. You're losing by 20, 30 plus. So I think this was a good wake-up call for them. They're still leading in the AFC East, not by a lot, obviously, as Kyle's going to get into a little bit later in the Patriot game. But they still have an MVP candidate in Josh Allen. They still have a very proficient offense and one of the league's best defenses. So we will see what happens go forward. But, this is definitely a shocker. I mean, to start off upset Sunday, shit, I don't think the world saw this coming.
I'll be honest with you. Granted, I'm not a Buffalo Bills fan, But, I'm a Patriot fan, and the Patriots play the Bills twice a year, every year. And Buffalo is always one of those teams that they're always tough to play against. And with the recent success that they've had, they're a really good football team. I mean, so good to the point that they made it to the AFC Championship game last year against the Chiefs. So when I look at this matchup against Jacksonville, I'm with AJ 100%. This should have been a cakewalk of a game. Jacksonville, I think this is their third win in a season and a half. This is not a good football team by any stretch of the imagination. I don't even know what the line was for this game, but I imagine that Buffalo was probably at least a 7 to 10 point favorite going into this game.
It was a 14 and a half.
So, I mean, Jesus, they barely even covered the Bills spread with the point total. I mean, there were only 15 total points scored in this game. And Buffalo played probably one of the worst games that I've ever seen them play. Granted, I'm only 26, but this is one of the worst losses that I've seen the Bills have in my entire lifetime. Granted, there have been some bad losses in the past with the Bills. I know one in particular was, I remember back in 2007, they were playing the Patriots on Sunday night, and they just got absolutely obliterated by Tom Brady, Randy Moss, Wes Welker on that Sunday night matchup. But I think this loss against Jacksonville is even worse because Jacksonville is at the bottom of the barrel in the AFC. Jacksonville as a team is basically one step above a Division I football team out of the SEC. And with all the shenanigans that have gone on with Urban Meyer, Trevor Lawrence has been inconsistent this year. I mean, the Bills should have won this game easily. This should have been at least a 2-possession game for the Bills. But the Bills just made so many mental mistakes in this game. They had 12 penalties for damn near 120 penalty yards. And on third down, they weren't really efficient. And there were a lot of plays where it's third down and it's like 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15. And even before then on second down, there were multiple plays where the Bills are backed up 2nd and 20, 2nd and 25, 2nd and 15. It's just like you're already kind of digging yourself a hole in the drive. Now, granted, I thought their defense played fine. They held Jacksonville to 9 points. I mean, literally 99 out of 100 times, you're probably going to win a game like that when your defense is playing that well. But, I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, the offense got 6 points on the board today. And this is a high-powered offense. And you couldn't get more than 6 points? That's just, it really kind of goes to show just the Bills just couldn't get on track whatsoever offensively today. And Kevin, I know we've talked about this before. They are so one-dimensional because they just don't run the football. Josh Allen was their leading rusher once again today. He had 50 yards on the ground. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary had a combined 22 yards on the ground. You can't have that. You can't have that. It's unacceptable that this team is one of the best teams in the AFC, yet they have literally no run game whatsoever. So when I look at Buffalo, this is not only a bad loss, this is one of the worst losses I've ever seen them take. And, for Jacksonville, good on them. This is probably going to be their biggest win of the year, a win that nobody expected. But, yeah, I'm really focusing on Buffalo here. Buffalo should have won this game by a mile. And, they're going to have to go back to the drawing board. I had them as my number 6 team in the entire NFL in the power rankings last week. And with this loss, they might drop out of the top 10 just because this performance against Jacksonville was just outright disgusting. We're halfway through the season at this point. You should not be having performances like this. If this was in week 1, week 2, okay, you're still trying to figure things out. But in week 9, we're in November. This should not happen any way, shape, or form. So, the Bills got to get it together. And, when they play the Jets next week, man, they might put up 40, 45 points just because they got to make up for this tire fire of a game against Jacksonville.